Hello everyone and welcome back to another video. Today we're going to be reacting to a video that was sent to me about Age of Empires 2 from a really big channel on YouTube that is not known necessarily for making AoE2 content. Bellular News, 360k subscribers. This video is titled We Need to Talk About Age of Empires 2, and I happen to love talking about AoE2, so I'm going to go ahead and check this out right now. I haven't watched the video at all, so I'm going in completely fresh. And it's 109,000 views in one day, so quite a pretty sizable video here. And I'm gonna go ahead and see what he's got to say, see what he's gonna be talking about here, and maybe add in some thoughts of my own. And I don't know what to expect from him, so I don't know what I'm gonna add, but I'll see what I can do and try to add some commentary myself and see what's popping here. Yeah, I just want to say, really cool to see different creators making content about AoE2. That's awesome, and I'm happy that AoE2 is doing things big enough to get on the radar to have big channels making content about them as well. So just overall, a very happy time. And let's go ahead and hop right in and see what our friend here is talking about.
Start today with a number. The number is 42,566, and that is the average concurrent Age of Empires player count across all of the games on Steam. And that means, right, that somehow Microsoft...
AoE3 is in the gutter, man. AoE3... Oh, no, Definitive Edition is up there. Okay, not bad. HD is also doing numbers, which is kind of insane to see 3,000 still there. Solid numbers across the board. I agree with this guy already. Let me bump his volume a little bit, though.
Have not smothered this franchise just like they did to Halo. And what they've just done is even less typical. There's a new DLC that's inspired by a mod, greenlit partially because a YouTube video went viral that then saw them hire the damn modding team. This is the exact energy that this industry often denies us, but like with all journeys, there were certainly road bumps. Age of Empires 2 released in 1999, but it routinely hits player peaks of 24k in Steam today. And the reason why is simple, hard work. To cut a long story short, Age of Empires 2 Definitive succeeded largely because it's the ideal remake. It has quality of life change. It has some mechanical tweaks that were done with care, art and animations that are stunning, and somehow managed to look both modern and classic. It's got that and a hell of a lot of content.
That's a really good point. I think that's something that we don't appreciate enough as an AoE2 community. If a remake is made, like think of it, if we have DE now, if they remake it again somehow, and if they make a remake that is just bad or worse than the current game, then it's going to split the audience and basically ruin the game. So the fact that they made a remake and it was so successful and basically revived the game and got so many more players involved is kind of amazing. And I know sometimes, the regular AoE2 players and fans, we always can criticize, pathing, this or that, the lobby system, the friend system. It's, Definitive Edition is not perfect, but I'm happy to hear from an outside perspective here, a guy that's maybe not as invested in the AoE2 community. They talk about the good things that the Definitive Edition brought and just how successful it was. And I think we in the AoE2 community should appreciate that a little bit more, but definitely agree on this point. It was the ideal remake, truly.
Managed to look both modern and classic. It's got that and a hell of a lot of content. Every expansion made up until then, plus the last cans, and it got continual support as well. There were feature updates, balance patches, now there's co-op campaigns, and all seemed well. Currently, the main game is at 94% in Steam, and that may make what I'm about to say surprising. May 2023's Rise of Rome is at 47% in Steam.
Sure.
October 23's Mountain Royals is at 63%, and March 2024's Victors and Vanquished is at 30%. It's mostly negative and it has loads of reviews. So the question is, what changed? How did that lead to today, and what's going on?
He might cover it, but I hope he talks about why those DLCs got low reviews. But basically, for Rise of Rome, they had it was not exactly an AoE2 update. They implemented AoE1, into AoE2, and it was expensive. Victors and Vanquished was just a campaign DLC, and it's expensive. So they had certain qualities about those DLCs that made the negative reviews come. I hope he covers those as well. Let's see what he's got to say. Again, I didn't watch it, so it's hard for me to script this. It's just a natural flow.
To understand any of that, we first need to see the rise of forgotten empires.
Okay.
And to channel their energy and rise up yourself, you gotta check out today's sponsor. We're going to teach you backend development with Python and Go, which are two awesome languages, and it's a strong job field with average. If you want to get
Sorry, I have to tip the sponsor, but respect.
Started on an awesome pathway, hit up boot.dev/bellularnews. You'll get 25% off your first purchase, and you can get learning, and they post free demos on all of their courses and a 30-day money-back guarantee. Even though the results are completely different, there's a major Halo parallel here, and that is that 343 Industries was a company made to oversee the Halo franchise, one that, bar the Master Chief Collection, essentially failed. Age of Empires saw similar with a team called World's Edge. They were formed in 2019 to steward Age of Empires, and the story behind all of this is fascinating. You see, just over a decade ago, two groups were remastering Age of Empires 2 at the same time. Microsoft were doing it, and then a modding group called Forgotten Empires were doing it. And rather than the usual in gaming where the modders get shut down, Microsoft decided to collaborate. Forgotten Empires even made an expansion along with one of the Age of Empires 2 HD support teams. And of course now, Forgotten Empires is no longer a mod team. They are in fact their own studio. And to get
That's really insane. I know that modders usually don't like become official positions. It's a very rare thing to happen because I was following Modern Warfare 2, Call of Duty game, recently got a remake by a modding team, and it just got completely shut down by like the Activision, like the main the maker of the original Modern Warfare 2. And it was so sad because the original, or like the remake version, was actually kind of clean. Like I would think that they would like to see, a remake of a classic game, but apparently companies do not like that whatsoever, except AW2, who apparently hired the entire mod team and made it official, which is insane. That's true. It's really rare for that to be the case. So we are lucky to have Forgotten Empires. I touched about Forgotten Empires and their impact with in the game in the AW2 history video that I made with Doubt, 2-hour basically documentary with the entire history of AW2 online at least. And I'm happy to see them getting recognition here as well. Let's see what's more to be discussed.
Together with Skybox, they created 2 expansions for HD Edition. And then after that, and under World's Edge's oversight, they led development of Age of Empires 2 Definitive Edition, along with 2 support teams, Wicked Witch and Tantalus Media. It was a humongous success that just oozed love from every pore. Again, even just looking at the building destruction animations, it's amazing. And thankfully, the string of successes didn't stop. They co-developed Age of Empires 3 Definitive Edition, and they co-developed Age of Empires 4, along with Relic. Relic, the massive game studio working on the new entry in the franchise. Imagine being them and having a group like Forgotten Empires there to help you get it right. And then, with Age of Empires 2, the wins would roll on. We had Lords of the West, Dawn of the Dukes, and Dynasties of India. They were all well liked, 78, 84, and 80% on Steam, each costing $10. The good streak was there until one day, the streak very much was broken. The joke is true. We men often do think about Rome a lot. This time, though, it's Return to Rome. This was the 25th anniversary expansion, and it wasn't like the others. It was going to add lots of Age of Empires 1 into Age of Empires 2. There would be new voiced campaigns, modernized mechanics for the AoE 1 stuff to better fit AoE 2, and then Rome as a full Age of Empires 2 civ. But it didn't land. $14.99 was more expensive. Not all people were even interested in AoE 1, and it launched with issues. Today, it is fun, like it's a good way to play those campaigns, but it's completely dead in multiplayer. And that means that even with more Age of Empires 1 campaigns added through 2023, its bad reputation stuck. What hurt them...
What's really interesting here is that the AoE 1 ladder has literally like 2 active players, and one of them, like the rank 2 player, is literally like 0-13 on the rank ladder, and he's ranked 2 on the ladder. That's how dead AoE 1 was. So I really think that this integration from AoE 1 into AoE 2, to say it didn't land is an understatement. It wasn't even on the same planet as the floor to even land on. Not to be too harsh or anything, it's just sometimes you try something and it just doesn't work, totally understandable. But the AoE 1 integration just really didn't mesh well. I don't know how many people are playing the campaigns. I hope there's a good amount enjoying the AoE 1 campaigns. And I thought it was an interesting idea because AoE 1 with AoE 2 graphics sounds like a decent idea. Like, it didn't feel horrible to me. I actually tried it myself, and it was like reasonably fun. I appreciated it. But for some reason, the AoE 1 players just didn't care for it. And I think they were targeting the Vietnamese audience as well, which I think just stuck with the original AoE 1 anyways. So even though Red Bull was played on this version of AoE 1, what do they call it? Not retold, but the new AoE 1 version on AoE 2, even though Red Bull was played on that, I still think the Vietnamese community, which is the largest AoE 1 community, stuck with the original game. So this really did not hit the target audience that they intended. But this DLC did have the Romans for AoE 2, so it did give you a little bit more value than just the AoE 1, which is fine. But obviously the price tag at 15 probably not justified for most AoE 2 players.
them again was October's Mountain Royals. This fared better, but it kept the $15 price tag. Now, there are unique units, there are more mechanics, but it costed more, right? Value criticisms began to creep in, and that's something we've seen before with strategy games like Warhammer Total War. But what really did them in was March 2024's Victors and Vanquished. This did not go down well. It's mostly negative in Steam. It was $2 cheaper than the other two, but it's very different. It's single player only, but it's a totally different format. There are 19 scenarios, each is pretty long, they've got varied mechanics, and rather than the typical long campaign, they're just all different stories with different characters. And there are big characters like Oda Nobunaga, Ragnar Lothbrok, all of those people that you might know from histories and legends. But here's the thing. Only 5 of those scenarios are new. The others are actually remasters of community-made maps. Now, work was done to them, right? They are fully voiced, bugs are fixed, they're updated, but it's not what people expected, and leaning on 14 community map remasters to do your DLC absolutely rubbed people the wrong way. And with a streak of 3 back-to-back bad releases,
Yeah, that's kind of true. Honestly, the Victors and Vanquished was a bit of a disappointing DLC. Like, as a streamer, I always, to be fair, I always like to give the benefit of the doubt to Microsoft, because at the end of the day, my position is that I like that there's new content coming in. That's like my overall position when it comes to AoE2. So even if we get some like a DLC that I don't like, I'll still be like, I don't care for this, but it's still good that we're getting it. And when it comes to Victims and Vanquished, that was my exact position. Like, I didn't necessarily care for the scenarios, but I thought it was like good that we got something. But a lot of the people like in my chat and the comments that I've been reading just felt like they kind of not got scammed, but they were kind of sold something different than what they expected, and they weren't quite happy with the purchase that they made. But the people that did play it did enjoy it. They said that the DLC or like the scenarios were fun. It was cool, solid, but it was quite expensive for the price that they paid. So or for the content that they got. So I'm a bit conflicted about where exactly I stand. I think that there's still decent value for the price point that they gave, but comparing to other DLCs that we got, like new civilizations, new full campaigns, I can definitely see how Victors and Vanquished was kind of like a downgrade. Definitely can see that. But let's see the next.
That means that the Overseer's World's Edge risked reminding themselves, or perhaps reminding their players, of Creative Assembly and Paradox Interactive, which is not what they would want. And that is what makes the new plan all the more interesting. Here it is, the battle for Greece. It is wild. We've got modders and a YouTuber to thank for it. So, Chronicles Battle for Greece is a totally different format, and it's obviously the start of a new plan for this game. They pretty much say as much too. Now, I could just say that it's 3 civs and a bunch of missions, and that would be correct, but it would only be technically correct. That's because this is not made by the usual gang of Forgotten Empires plus a few support studios. Here's the story behind it. Rome at War is a fan-made total conversion for Age of Empires 2 Definitive Edition, and it is absolutely stunning. The units are reskinned to fit the new time period. It looks gorgeous. Things that don't fit, like gunpowder units, are replaced. There are new units. There's a mix of new and repurposed assets, mechanical changes. It's just an incredible piece of work. A YouTuber, Spirit of the Law, covered it, and his YouTube video got...
It's been a lot. I've been watching this guy for a long time. This guy's incredible channel. I love his content so much. I don't know this, by the way. I don't know where we're going with this. This is all new to me. So I'm gonna watch. I did hear about new DLC, but I didn't know Spirit of the Law was the inspiration behind it. Let's see what's happening.
Got 274,000 views. The video popped off, the mod popped off, and as he tells us in a recent video, we've actually learned that the mod popularity and then his video helping to bring it to light, that actually helped kick off and greenlight this project. That's a strange as hell way for a game to be kicked off in our industry, but its development is also a little bit different. It's led by Capture Age. They're another team who work on Age of Empires, and they've also got a unconventional story. They actually started by making third-party spectator tools. Now, those tools got official approval, and with that, they then morphed into being an Age of Empires support team. They've even worked in Age of Empires 4 and Age of Mythology. Here, though, they are working with the Rome at War mod team, who are now a part of their studio. So that is far from typical, as is the DLC. It's a standalone one that is accessed via the sidebar in the main game menu, and its big feature is a 21-mission campaign that covers the conflict between the Persians and the Greeks over a 100-year time span, and seemingly with a campaign design that is not like any other stuff we've seen in Age of Empires. And just by the numbers, there are 55 new land unit models, 19 naval, 85 new buildings, and Athens, Sparta, and the Achaemenid Persians are our civs. They then went and overhauled the water-based gameplay, and it seems there will be choices that you make in the campaign that impact the rest of the campaign, and there are customizable commanders. And those commanders, well, they're big names of the era, like you'll probably get your Leonidas, your Themistocleses, and such. Spirit of the Law in his video was not able to share details, but apparently the cinematics they're doing are quite something as well. And what they've very much done in their PR is talk up the narrative big time, and they've also sold a vision that is so laser targeted to me personally that it feels almost like an attack. They say the pitch is a unified story spanning the ancient world, and for me, here's why it's cool. You've got the founding of Rome, you've got the transition from kingdom to republic that goes on in and around this era, you've got the conquest of Italy, the Punic Wars, the conquest of Greece, everything in North Africa, the Iberian Peninsula, Gaul, maybe even Roman Britain, and that's just looking at it through the Roman lens. There are so many incredible stories and characters that they could cover here, and if they're able to do this with some sort of more unified, higher production value, like good narrative campaign, then this could be the start of something that is pretty damn incredible. And the good news for the multiplayer people is they've also said that this is not the only type of DLC that we'll get. And so
I do want to read that. Even if it means some variation in how we roll out DLC, examples if it's not going to rank. So when we do something different like this, please don't be alarmed. We're just happy that you're growing new branches. The ones that have given you shade in times past are still there, and we've got plenty of survivors waiting for you. Like a lot. Seriously, a lot. Wow, that's a lot of promises. So they're still promising us, DLCs for ranked games. Okay, so this was cool because this is actually a lot of new information to me. I was traveling when this new DLC was announced, and I did see the Spirit of the Law video, but I didn't watch it in full, so I didn't know exactly what it was about. But this seems like this is exactly what Victors and Vanquished was supposed to be. It feels like they learned a lot of their lessons from Victors and Vanquished, and they want to do it right this time. They are pretty set in doing campaign-only DLCs, and I think the reason for that is because we have a lot of AV2 players that only play campaigns. In fact, from the numbers I've heard here and there, there's a lot more that play campaigns than multiplayer. Like, a lot more, to use their phrasing. So it makes sense that they want to target that group specifically with new campaigns, and I'm all for that. And it seems really cool that they're going to go ahead and make, new skins, new units, a new time period, or at least like taking out the gunpowder, for example. I think that's really cool for immersion. I think immersion when it comes to like a history-based game is super important, because if you're playing, in a certain time period and you've got units that just don't match the time period, it just doesn't feel like it's all coherent. Doesn't feel like it's all coming together nicely. But the fact that they're going to go ahead and make new units, new graphics, different architecture, different, styles to suit that time period, I think that's super cool. I have heard about this mod before in a Spirit of the Law video as well back in the day, so I was somewhat aware of it, but I didn't know that it was this successful, and I'm honestly happy for whoever was working on that to get it to this level to where Microsoft is making DLCs for it. And I genuinely hope this DLC is a success. I think it's coming out in November, and I hope it's a success. I hope people are truly into this, and that it's everything that it's being promised to be. It sounds really cool. I might actually check this out myself. It depends on how the tournament scene is looking around then, but definitely looks really cool so far. And I can definitely see this guy's excitement about it, which is really cool to see, by the way. Shout out to this guy. I don't know what to call him because this channel's name is Bellar News, but shout out to this guy for bringing that excitement to the video as well. It genuinely seems like he's happy to see what's coming out here, which I do appreciate. Let's see the next.
They've also said that this is not the only type of DLC that we'll get. And so when I look at this, I think of, basically, why can we not have nice things more often? Why can this not be the norm? What I've just walked you through is exactly what we did not see happen to Starcraft. Starcraft, as an RTS, is dead because it could never be a billion-dollar scale project.
That's true. I don't know if it's about like the billion-dollar scale project, but StarCraft 2 is on the decline. And it's really crazy to see because I feel like StarCraft 2 was like all about competitiveness, and like they really, at least from what I'm hearing, I'm not too invested into StarCraft, but it feels like they really brand themselves about like elite gaming. Like, the StarCraft pros are looked at so highly. In fact, I get some comments here and there that say like, oh, I'm only a top player in AV2 because no one plays it. I'm nothing compared to the Korean StarCraft players. I'm nothing compared to these StarCraft players. And personally, I don't buy that. I think that AV2 elite pro players are top tier gamers comparable to StarCraft pros, me personally. But the important thing is that StarCraft, I feel like, never invested into like the casual or the fun player base, whereas AoE2 is making sure that those players are targeted, which is super important considering the online and the competitive scene is a fraction of the people that play it. Even though, again, this is me kind of like arguing in favor of stuff that's not for me, but it's for the health of the game. I don't necessarily care for all the campaigns that come out. I do enjoy campaigns, as you guys know. I've been playing the older campaigns here and there on videos, so I do like campaigns. I grew up with them, but I don't have the time to play them all right now. That being said, I still think it's great that they're coming out with more, and I think that this guy is absolutely right in saying AoE2 got right what StarCraft got wrong. Which I think is quite a step in the right direction.
Now, yeah, there is a StarCraft shooter, but that's not what StarCraft is. StarCraft is RTS first. So what we see here is not some crazy uninterrupted string of wins. There have been losses, there have been pricing errors, but there have been far more wins than losses. And what's amazing is Forgotten Worlds has about 40 developers. Capture Age grew slowly to support Age of Empires as was needed. And when it was time for a big new game, sure, they got a big studio like Relic on board. And throughout all of this, they've had loads of other successes. Age of Empires 3 does not have a mammoth player base, but its definitive edition does have a fairly strong monthly average. Age of Empires 4, well, its September monthly average was 14,700. Not as much as AoE 2, but surprisingly high. The newly released Age of Mythology is currently dropping off, though my read on that is it's always been more of a single player draw, and right now on Steam, it's got 89%. What we have is loads of Age of Empires games, and they're almost all well regarded. If you add the last 30-day averages of the new, like, definitive edition projects and stuff together, you have an average player count of 42,566, which is goddamn remarkable, and that is all because they treated an IP that players love and respect with love and respect. Looking at Halo, looking at how...
Wait, I just want to talk real quick about that. That's a really good point. I think when it comes to Age of Empires 2 and how Microsoft has handled it, you really feel that it's people that like the game and like the franchise that are working on it. And I think that's so important when it comes to like a healthy game, because that what you get from them is usually what you want or what you're expecting to have or what you'd wish for. When it comes to, other companies that just bring, put out stuff, bigger companies that just put out stuff for profit, sometimes you get that disconnect between, the people making the new content and the people playing the game, because it's just not, it's not really what the player base wants. Whereas with AoE2, it always felt like, yes, it's a business decision at the end of the day for Microsoft to release new, DLCs, new game modes, whatever. But it always felt like they tried to give the player base what they want. And even though, as this guy mentioned, there were some hiccups, some things that were taken the wrong way, or that were disliked a little bit. I think overall everybody can say that Microsoft has the player base's best intentions when it comes to the new content that they release, and I really appreciate that. And I would rather have a small team that loves the game than a big team that barely plays the game. And I think we have that, and we're lucky to have that.
It died under Microsoft. I think there's a simple answer here. Small teams, defined scope, and reasonable expectations. And of course here, modders. I mean, Age of Empires was never going to be gigantic, but now it is large, and free from the burden of Halo-like expectations, it's actually just been left to handle itself and keep itself healthy. And what's so sad is that what it's doing now is what the Starcraft 2 team tried to do to keep their game alive. You see, they did that through mission packs. The plan was that they do mission packs. The people will just keep on buying content. Nova Covert Ops was a series of 3 packs released across 1 year, and the missions were damn good. Each pack cost $7.49 USD, but the bundle of all 3 cost $14.99. That's basically the price of an Age of Empires 2 DLC. And sure, I get why it's a lot for some, but hey, it's Starcraft, higher production values, a bit more expensive, and by the way, it's paying for content. You see, that's the thing. Our expectations have become screwed up by live services, even ones that we pay $60 or $70 for. We are now used to games with hundreds of hours of loot grinding, but let's be real. Paying for content is good. If we want games, we should be happy to pay for them. It's now at the stage where if a game is free, I am less interested, because if something is free, it means that you are the product. It means that the game portion is only there to capture your interest so you may eventually buy skins, or for you to just be a body there to keep a game alive so somebody else buys skins. Between Warcraft 3 Reforged and Starcraft 2, Blizzard had numerous.
I don't know if I entirely agree with that. I'm actually a pretty big fan of the free to play with skins model, just because I feel like I understand what he's saying, that we become the product. I understand that 100%. But I also feel like at the end of the day, then it leaves the decision in the consumer's hands whether they want to, support the franchise, pay for it. But then the actual playing of the game is completely free. I like that, as long as there's no pay to win aspect, which is, I think, predatory. As long as there's no pay to win aspect, I'm a huge fan of like the free to play with skins. So there, I completely disagree with him there, on that point in particular. So I see his point, but I think that model works really well. But I also agree that that the willingness to pay for content is, should always be there. We shouldn't be seeing these content as like, or this new content as like, oh, they're like milking the consumers. I really think it's a two-way relationship where they are working to bring out new content, and us as the consumers are paying to support their work and to get more enjoyment out of it. And I think that's a healthy relationship, to be honest. And at the end of the day, if you don't like a DLC, you can just choose not to buy it and just choose to skip it, which is completely fair.
Numerous opportunities to do what World's Edge decided to in getting mod teams involved. Right now, there is a Warcraft 2 remake project in Warcraft 3 Reforged. That is a damn strong piece of work. Age of Empires shows us that this sort of model can work, that you can treat a legacy IP right. You just need to set expectations, know what you're getting into, and try to be a little bit less typical, because a long tenured game is so deep with its community that you need to involve the community in moving it forward.
True.
We now could have had many StarCraft 2 mission packs. Just imagine the co-op commanders game modes they could have made. Maybe StarCraft 1 story remade in StarCraft 2, and the same would go for Warcraft 3 Reforged, let alone the initial vision of that game that was genuinely exciting. And what pisses me off is the kickback that I got in a recent video on Overwatch. I was criticizing the pricing of skins, how scummy it was, and people were saying, bro, why do you even care? You're just farming outrage. They're not forcing you to buy them. To which I say, if you're my age, you're foolish. If you're younger than me, well, I suppose you weren't there, so you just wouldn't understand. The thing is, back in the day, we paid money for content, right? We paid for our games, and adjusted for inflation, our games were more expensive than they are today, but we were far happier. You see, now, attention, effort, marketing, it goes into those $100 skins that are designed for whales, and all of that stupid stuff, while the core games are left the bare minimum they need to be to support those purchases. It is all about incentives. If you earn money by selling people skins, then skins will be the thing you optimize around. If you make money by selling people content, then content will be the thing that you optimize around. This
That's actually a really good point. I like that he explained that at the end.
stuff goddamn matters. To know more, watch this video next.
That was a really good ending point, actually. So definitely a very valid perspective there at the end. Makes a lot of sense. Well, it makes a lot of sense. Well, hey, listen. I mean, what I get out of this video is that we have to appreciate exactly what Microsoft is doing for AV2. It's quite amazing that 25 years later we're still kicking. But I will also add that something that wasn't really mentioned at all here is the competitive aspect as well, and the tournaments that bring a lot of eyes to the scene. I think those two in conjunction, having guys like Red Bull, or like guys having companies like Red Bull hosting these events, combined with Microsoft pumping out single player content, I think it's the perfect mesh of two worlds where you have like the day-to-day competitive players hooked on the tournament scene, playing the game, streamers like myself and others making content. I think that's amazing for the day-to-day. And then having Microsoft bring out DLC content specifically geared towards cool new campaigns, cool new units, keeping people interested, getting people back into the game as well, reeling them back in. I know for me personally, if I see a new DLC, and like I actually quit to play League in AV4 a while ago, and then a new DLC reeled me back in. I wasn't planning to come back for another month or so, and then the new DLC was announced. I said, it looks cool. Like, I'm gonna get back a month earlier. So I know from personal experience that seeing a new DLC or new content will reel people back in and will spike up that interest again. So, but yeah, I really enjoyed this video by Bellar News. Awesome to see it get a really good amount of views. AV2 getting talked about is awesome for our game. Keeps that word of mouth high and lets people know that we're still out here, we're still kicking. And yeah, I'm just really happy with the way AV2 is going right now. It still feels super fun to play, and the new content we're getting, seems exciting. And also the new patches we're getting on multiplayer is and are exciting. I'm playing them right now and having a good time with them. But yeah, thank you so much for watching the video. Let me know down in the comments below if you guys want to add anything to the discussion, both to his video or what I was adding or what I was saying myself. And yeah, thanks for watching. I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.